welcome to ZOZO Sleepy Stories. We're thrilled to have you here for another cozy tale to spark your imagination. If you enjoy our stories, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us keep the bedtime magic alive. Now, grab your blanket, get comfy, and let's dive into tonight's story. Hello, my dear friend. Come in. Come in from the bustling noise of the day. The world outside spins so quickly, doesn't it? It asks so much of you, with its deadlines and its worries, its bright screens and its endless, insistent hum. And now, in the deep velvet quiet of the night, when all is meant to be still, perhaps your mind still wants to spin along with it, replaying conversations, planning tomorrows, and chasing thoughts that seem to have no home. That is perfectly all right. There's no need to fight it. No need to quiet the storm by force. Let us instead give those restless thoughts a softer place to land, a gentle current to follow. This space, right here between my words and your listening, is a sanctuary. Imagine it as a warm, fire-lit room on a cool evening, a comfortable old armchair waiting just for you. The only sounds are the soft crackle and pop of the logs in the hearth and the gentle rhythm of my voice. It is a place to simply be. Take a gentle breath in, feeling the cool, clean air fill you with the calm of this present, peaceful moment. And as you breathe out, imagine the day's heavy cloak, woven with all its cares and expectations, simply sliding from your shoulders. Feel its weight, the texture of its anxieties, and then feel it release, puddling silently and harmlessly on the floor. You do not need it now. Tonight, we will not try to silence the mind. We will simply give it a story to follow, a gentle, meandering path to walk upon through a quiet, moonlit forest. Think of my voice not as a demand for your attention, but as a soft, rhythmic sound of rain on a window pane, or the distant, comforting rumble of a passing train in the night. It is a sound to accompany you, a steady hand to hold as you drift. I have gathered some stories for you, whispers pulled from the deep well of time. They are not the loud, clamoring tales of kings and battles you might find in history books. No, these are the quieter stories, the unwritten histories of the heart, found in the margins of the great pages. We will speak of the patient hands that wove beauty in silence, of a young girl who found a universe of stars in books while snow fell in a thick, hushed blanket outside her window. We will visit a queen who has been dreaming for 1,000 years in a chamber of sacred crimson, and a woman who, from a bed of pain, painted her soul with all the impossible colors of a garden in full bloom. Do not worry about following every twist and every turn. If a thought of your own drifts by, let it float on like a single leaf on a slow-moving stream. If your eyes begin to feel heavy, let them close. If sleep begins to whisper your name, feel free to answer its gentle call. This journey has no destination but rest. So, dim the lights. Settle deeper into the softness of your bed, into the welcoming comfort of this moment. Let us begin our gentle wandering together into the quiet lands of slumber. Let us begin our journey by drifting back, far back, through the mists of time, to an age when the world breathed more slowly. A time when the day was measured not by the frantic ticking of a clock, but by the gentle, majestic arc of the sun across the vast, open sky. The year was a grand, unfolding story, marked by the turning of the seasons in the fields. We are often told this was a dark and difficult time, and in many ways it was. But even in the deepest shadows, there is always a quiet light, a steady, enduring rhythm of life that offers its own profound peace. Imagine, if you will, a small village nestled in a valley as green as new moss. It is cupped in the gentle protective palm of a rolling hill, and a clear, cool stream, no wider than a country lane, winds its way through the center like a ribbon of liquid silver. In the early mornings, a soft, pearly mist rises from this stream, blanketing the village in a silent, ethereal light, softening the edges of the small, thatched-roof cottages that huddle together like a flock of sleeping sheep. The air here is clean and alive. It smells of damp, fertile earth, of wood smoke curling lazily and mingling with the mist from a dozen chimneys, and of the sweet, warm, life-affirming scent of baking bread. The sounds are simple, honest sounds, the music of a life lived close to the bone. There is the distant, rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer on his anvil, a steady, reassuring heartbeat for the village. There is the lowing of a cow being led to pasture, the cheerful, busy chatter of chickens scratching in the dirt, and the faint, happy shouts of children playing a game with a worn leather ball in the common green. This is the world we enter, not as a king or a knight in shining armor, but as a silent, invisible observer, feeling the very pulse of a day lived in simple, profound connection with the earth. The day begins when the first hint of rose and gold paint touches the eastern sky. There is no jarring, artificial alarm, only the gradual, gentle lightening of the world, and perhaps the proud, solitary crow of a rooster. A family stirs within one of the cottages. The air inside is cool from the night, and the first task of the day is to coax the glowing embers in the central hearth back to life. A father kneels, his face illuminated by the faint glow, and blows gently. Soon, a small, cheerful flame flickers, then catches, dancing to life and casting a warm, moving light on the rough-hewn wooden walls and the sleeping faces of his children. The fire is the living heart of the home, a source of warmth, of light, and of the day's coming nourishment. Breakfast is a simple, grounding affair. A thick slice of dark, heavy bread, perhaps with a piece of hard, salty cheese, and a cup of weak, warming ale. In a world where water from the stream could be treacherous, the gently fermented ale was a safer, more nourishing drink for all, even the children. They eat together, quietly, a small circle of warmth as the world outside awakens. Then, the day's work begins. A labor that follows the seasons as faithfully as the moon follows the earth. In the spring, it is the turning of the soil, the planting of tiny seeds in long, straight furrows, a ritual of hope and deep trust in the coming sun and rain. In the summer, it is the patient tending of the crops, the endless, meditative pulling of weeds under a warm, benevolent sun, the air buzzing with the contented sound of bees. In the autumn, it is the harvest, a time of joyful, communal effort and quiet, profound gratitude, the gathering of golden wheat and heavy root vegetables that will see them through the long winter. And in the winter, the work moves indoors, the patient mending of tools, the rhythmic spinning of wool, the slow, careful carving of a wooden spoon by the flickering firelight. There is a deep, satisfying rhythm to this life. Each task has its purpose, its season, its unique feel. The satisfying heft of an axe in the hand, the smooth, cool feel of a river stone, the rough texture of a burlap sack filled with grain. It is a life lived through the senses, a life of deep physical connection to the world, where the body grows tired, but the soul feels grounded and at peace. As you lie here, imagine this rhythm. Feel the gentle sway of a body walking a well-worn path to the fields. Hear the soft, hypnotic swish of a scythe through tall, sweet-smelling grass. Smell the rich, fertile scent of newly plowed earth. This is a world without hurry, a world where time is not a thing to be saved or spent, but a wide, flowing river to be lived within. Let the steady, unhurried pulse of this distant day soothe your own. There is no rush. There is only the gentle unfolding of the hours and the quiet, certain promise of rest when the work is done. Within the gentle rhythm of that village day, let us now step closer into the quiet, fragrant worlds of the artisans whose hands gave the community its very texture and its warmth. Their workshops were not grand halls of industry, but humble, light-filled extensions of their homes, places where skill, patience, and a quiet kind of everyday magic were woven into the very fabric of daily life. First, let us visit the weaver's cottage. It sits at the edge of the village where the green fields begin. The door is thrown open to the morning sun, and from within comes a steady, rhythmic, and deeply comforting sound. Clack, thump, clack, thump. This is the sound of the loom, a large wooden frame that takes up nearly half the room, a magnificent, complex instrument of wood and thread. Here, a woman named Ilara spends her days. Her hands, nimble and sure from a lifetime of practice, move in a graceful, mesmerizing dance that seems to know its own way. Her work begins not at the loom, but with the raw, greasy wool from the village sheep. It is washed in the cold, clear, fast-moving stream, the dirt and lanolin rinsed away until it is a soft, airy, creamy white. Then, sitting on a stool in the sun, she cards it, combing the fibers between two wooden paddles studded with iron teeth, over and over, until they are all aligned in a soft, gossamer cloud. From this cloud, she spins the thread. Her spindle, a simple, weighted piece of wood, twirls and dances at her side as she expertly draws out a long, even strand of yarn, a process that seems as natural and as effortless as her own breathing. This yarn is then dyed in large, bubbling pots over her hearth, transformed by the gifts of the earth. She uses walnuts, gathered from the woods, for a deep, earthy brown. She picks welled flowers from the meadow for a yellow as bright and as cheerful as a dandelion. She ferments woad leaves through a long and patient and rather smelly process for a blue as deep and as soft as a summer twilight sky. The cottage smells of these things, of wet wool, of simmering plants, of the earth's own beautiful hidden palette. Finally, the colored threads are warped upon the loom. This is the weaver's true art. With a shuttle of smooth, polished wood that feels like a bird in her hand, she sends the weft thread flying back and forth. Her feet work in the petals below to raise and lower the heddles in a complex rhythmic pattern, locking each thread perfectly into place. Clack, thump, clack, thump. With each pass, a small, new line of color is added, and slowly, miraculously, a sturdy, beautiful, and warm cloth emerges from the web of threads. It is a slow and patient magic, creating something strong and comforting from something as fragile and as simple as a single thread. Now, let us walk down the lane, following the warm, delicious, and utterly irresistible scent that has been perfuming the air all morning. We arrive at the baker's home, where a great, igloo-shaped stone oven is built into the side of the house, its domed top blackened with the soot of 1,000 happy bakings. Here, a man named Thomas the Baker works his own kind of wonderful magic. His day began long before the sun in the cool pre-dawn darkness. In the flickering light of a single candle, he was mixing his ingredients in a massive wooden trough, worn smooth with age. Flour, ground from the village wheat at the nearby watermill, water from the cool, deep well, a pinch of precious salt, and the most important ingredient of all, the starter. It is a living, bubbling piece of the previous day's dough, a tradition, a living being, passed down through generations of bakers, carrying the memory of every loaf that came before. His hands, strong and dusted with a fine white powder, work the dough with a practiced, loving rhythm, pushing, folding, turning, pushing, folding, turning. It is a physical, honest labor, a silent conversation between the baker and the bread. He can feel the dough come alive under his hands, transforming from a shaggy, lifeless mass into something smooth, elastic, and full of glorious potential. He shapes the loaves with care, his movements swift and sure. Round, rustic boules, long, tapered batards. He scores their tops with a sharp blade, his own signature mark, a small prayer for a good bake. Then the loaves are left to rest, to rise in a warm corner near the hearth, covered with a clean linen cloth. This is a quiet time, the time of patient, hopeful waiting, as the invisible, magical life within the dough does its mysterious work. When the time is right, he uses a long wooden peel to slide the risen loaves into the blazing hot stone heart of the oven. The intense, dry heat works a final, glorious transformation. The crust turns a deep, crackling chestnut gold, and the inside becomes soft, airy, and full of a rich, nutty flavor. The scent that pours from that oven is one of the most comforting in the world. A smell of home, of sustenance, of safety, and of community. As you lie here, imagine the rhythmic, soothing sounds of these ancient crafts. The clack, thump of the loom, the gentle whir of the spinning wheel, the soft, rhythmic pushing and folding of the dough. Feel the rough, comforting texture of hand-spun wool, the smooth, living elasticity of the bread. Smell the earthy, mysterious scent of the dye pots, the warm, life-affirming aroma of a freshly baked loaf. These are the arts of patience and transformation. They remind us that from the simplest of things, a fleece of wool, a handful of grain, something beautiful and nourishing can be made, with time, with care, and with loving, patient hands. Let that thought comfort you. You too are a work of patience and transformation. And now it is time to rest. From the world of the loom and the hearth, with their comforting sounds and warm, earthy scents, let us now retreat into an even quieter, more rarefied space. Let us find our way to a place of deep, profound silence and sacred concentration. A place where the world's knowledge and its stories were preserved not by machines, but by the patient, steady, and loving hand of a single person. Let us enter the world of the scribe. Imagine a monastery built of cool, gray, enduring stone, perched on a hill overlooking the green valley. Its walls are thick, its windows narrow, designed to keep the world and its endless clamor at bay. Within these walls, life moves to a different rhythm, a gentle, contemplative cadence of prayer and work, of bells that chime the hours with a soft, resonant tone that seems to hang in the clean air. Here, in a long, quiet room with high, arched windows facing north to catch the cool, steady, indirect light of the sky is the scriptorium. This is not a room of conversation, it is a room of communion. The only sounds are the soft, dry whisper of a turning page, the faint, rhythmic scratch of a quill on vellum, and the soft, even breathing of the monks bent over their tall, slanted desks. The air here smells of something unique and wonderful, of ink made from oak galls, of beeswax used for polishing the wooden desks, and of old, precious parchment that holds the wisdom of ages. Our story is not about an abbot or a great theologian, but about a young monk named Brother Leo. He is seated at his desk, his shoulders hunched in a posture of pure concentration, his entire world narrowed to the small, illuminated space before him. His task is a sacred one, to copy a book of Psalms, to create a new, beautiful, and enduring vessel for ancient, holy words, so that they might live on for another generation and another after that. His work is a ritual of almost infinite patience. The page before him is a sheet of vellum, made from the prepared skin of a calf that has been scraped, stretched, and smoothed for weeks, until it is a pale, creamy, flawless surface, almost as smooth and as cool as a marble. On this precious material, he has drawn faint, ruler-straight lines with a piece of lead, a nearly invisible, ethereal guide for his letters, ensuring that each line will be as perfect as the one before. In one hand, he holds his quill. It is the flight feather of a goose, carefully chosen for its strength and flexibility, and cured over many months. He has shaped its tip himself with a small, razor-sharp knife, a delicate skill that took him years to master. A tiny, perfect slit in the nib allows the ink to flow in a smooth, controlled, and unbroken line. His ink is a deep, velvety, permanent black, made from a secret recipe of oak galls and iron salts, a recipe as old as the monastery itself. He dips the quill into his inkhorn, a small polished pot made from an actual horn, just enough to fill the small reservoir in the nib. Then, with a steady hand and a held breath, he touches it to the page, and the quiet magic begins. With a slow, deliberate, and even pressure, he forms the letters. Each one is a work of art, a perfect Gothic script, with strong, confident vertical strokes and delicate, connecting hairlines. His hand does not waver. His breathing is slow and even. This is not mere writing. It is a form of prayer, a deep and focused meditation in motion. He is not thinking of the words' meaning in this moment, but of their shape, their form, their sacred, beautiful geometry. He is building the text, letter by letter, like a mason building a great and silent cathedral of words. Hours pass. The cool, indirect light in the room shifts as the sun makes its slow journey across the sky. But Brother Leo does not notice. His back aches, his fingers are stained with the indelible black of his ink, but his mind is in a state of deep, blissful, focused peace. The world outside, with its changing seasons and its human struggles, fades away to a distant murmur. There is only the page, the quill, and the steady, silent, beautiful flow of words taking form under his hand. Sometimes, his task is to illuminate the page, to bring not just words, but light to the vellum. This is a different, more colorful kind of magic. He will leave a space for a large, ornate capital letter at the beginning of a chapter. Later, he or another monk specializing in illumination will fill this space with breathtaking, jewel-like beauty. They will use a fine brush made from just a few hairs of a squirrel's tail, and paints made from ground precious minerals, lapis lazuli for a celestial blue, malachite for a vibrant green, mixed with the golden yolk of an egg. They will lay down a background of shimmering beaten gold leaf, so thin it seems to be made of captured, solid light. And against this divine glow, they will paint intricate, twining vines, perfectly formed blooming flowers, and perhaps, hidden in the foliage, a tiny, whimsical creature, a squirrel, a bird, a snail, a small, humble, and anonymous signature of the human hand that created this heavenly page. This work is not done for fame. The scribe does not sign his name. His work is a selfless offering, an act of pure devotion to something larger and more enduring than himself. He is a humble conduit, a quiet vessel through which these ancient words are given new life and new light. He is a keeper of the light in a world that can often seem dark and fleeting. As you lie in the quiet of your own room, imagine the profound, sacred stillness of the scriptorium. Hear the gentle, rhythmic scratch of the quill on the page, a sound as soothing and as mesmerizing as a cat's purr. Picture the deep, rich black of the ink as it soaks into the creamy, pale vellum. See the breathtaking, impossible shimmer of a golden letter catching the soft northern light. This is a world of deep, focused calm. It is a powerful reminder that in silence, great and lasting things are born. In patience, beauty is cultivated. In devotion, a quiet and unshakable peace can be found. Let that deep monastic calm settle over you now, like a soft, woolen blanket. Let it quiet the busy scriptorium of your own mind. There are no more words that need to be written tonight. There is only the blank, peaceful, and inviting page of sleep, waiting for you to turn to it. The life of the village, the weaver, the baker, and the scribe was not a life of grand, earth-shaking events, but of small, constant, cyclical changes. The most powerful force in their world was not a king's decree or a distant battle, but the slow, inevitable, and deeply beautiful turning of the seasons. Each one brought its own unique light, its own particular work, its own special feeling, a rhythm as old, as reliable, and as constant as the stars in the night sky. Let us first feel the gentle, tentative, and hopeful awakening of spring. After the long, quiet, inward sleep of winter, a new, green energy begins to stir deep in the earth. The air, which for weeks has been sharp and cold enough to sting the cheeks, softens. It loses its bite. It begins to carry a new scent, a clean, wonderful smell of damp, thawing soil, and the faint, sweet, almost imperceptible promise of new life. The days, so long, short, and dark, begin to stretch, and the sunlight itself seems to change, turning from a pale, watery white to a warm, hopeful, liquid gold. In the woods, the first secret signs appear. Tiny, bright green, tightly coiled fiddleheads of ferns begin to uncurl from the dark, leafy forest floor. The branches of the trees, so long bare and skeletal against the gray sky, begin to swell with tiny, tender, sticky buds. And then one day, the first primroses appear, their pale, yellow blossoms like small, scattered stars in the mossy banks of the stream. A quiet, joyful announcement that the world is waking up. The birds return. The sound of their song, absent for so long, suddenly fills the morning air with a cascade of cheerful, liquid, and intricate notes. For the people of the village, this is a time of renewed hope and of hard, satisfying work. The fields must be plowed, the dark, rich, sleeping earth turned over to the warming sun. It is a time for planting, for placing tiny, precious seeds in the soil with a quiet, humble prayer for the coming sun and rain. Then, spring deepens and blossoms into the long, golden, and languid days of summer. The world is now lush, vibrant, and full to bursting with life. The trees are heavy with leaves, their branches full and green, creating a cool, shady canopy over the dusty lanes. The fields are a vast, waving sea of green stalks, and the meadows are a riot of brilliant color, thick with wildflowers, scarlet poppies, deep blue cornflowers, and the white, frothy, lace-like blossoms of Queen Anne's lace. The air is warm and alive, humming with the lazy, contented drone of bees and the cheerful, endless chirping of crickets. The days are long and drenched in light, stretching from an early, misty, pearly-gray dawn to a late, lingering twilight of deep purple and soft orange. The work in the fields continues, a patient tending of the growing crops under the warm, benevolent sun. The stream becomes a place of joy, where children splash and shout in the cool, shallow water, and villagers come to rest in the deep, dappled shade of the willow trees on its banks. The nights are warm and short and magical. The sky a deep, velvety indigo blanket scattered with the diamond dust of the Milky Way. As summer's intense heat begins to soften, the first glorious hints of autumn arrive. A new quality enters the light, a clearer, sharper, more golden hue. A distinct crispness enters the air in the mornings, a clean, invigorating scent of dry leaves and ripe, sweet apples. The world begins its magnificent, final transformation of the year. The deep, uniform greens of summer give way to a breathtaking, fiery palette of gold, orange, and deep wine red. The maple trees become brilliant torches of scarlet, the oaks a burnished regal bronze, the aspens a shimmering, trembling, almost liquid gold. This is the season of harvest, the joyful, grateful culmination of the year's work. The entire village comes together to bring in the rich bounty of the fields. The golden wheat is cut, bundled, and stored. The heavy, earthy potatoes, carrots, and turnips are dug from the dark, fragrant soil. The orchards are heavy with ripe apples and pears, their sweet, winey scent filling the air. There is a deep, shared sense of satisfaction, of community, of profound gratitude for the earth's generosity. It is a time for gathering in, for preparing for the quiet, restful time to come. And finally, winter arrives. It comes not as an enemy, but as a welcome friend, a time of deep, necessary rest for the earth and for its people. The world becomes simplified, hushed, and still. The vibrant, fiery colors of autumn fade to the subtle, beautiful tones of gray, brown, and white. The first snowfall is a moment of pure, silent magic. The delicate, unique flakes drifting down in a silent, swirling dance, blanketing the world in a pristine, soft whiteness that muffles all sound and brings a profound sense of peace. The work moves indoors. The fire in the hearth becomes the undeniable center of life, a warm, glowing heart, a place for storytelling, for mending tools, for the quiet, easy companionship of family. The days are short, the nights long and deep. It is a time for reflection, for sleep, for the slow, quiet gathering of strength. The world outside is cold and still and sleeping, but inside, in the warm, fire-lit heart of the cottage, life is safe and sound and at peace. As you lie here, feel the gentle, inevitable turning of this great wheel. Feel the hopeful thaw of spring, the warm, buzzing fullness of summer, the crisp, grateful harvest of autumn, and the deep, quiet, restorative peace of winter. Your own life, your own mind has its seasons. Its times of planting and of harvest, of vibrant energy and of quiet, necessary rest. Tonight, perhaps, is a winter for your soul, a time to let the busy world outside fall still and silent. a time to gather your strength in the quiet warmth within. It is a time to let the soft snow of sleep fall gently, covering everything in a clean, peaceful blanket of soft, quiet white. Now, let us leave the timeless, earthy rhythm of the village and travel across a continent to a different world, a world of castles and courts, a world of quiet ambition and unfolding destiny. But even in this world of polished floors and gilded ceilings, our story begins where true strength so often does, in a quiet, forgotten room, with a young girl who found her first and truest kingdom not on a map, but in the boundless, magical pages of a book. In a small, orderly German principality, a place of neat, dark forests and disciplined, formal gardens, lived a girl named Sophie. She was born into a noble family, but their power and influence were modest, a single, small candle in the vast, glittering ballroom of European royalty. Sophie was not a princess from a well-known fairy tale. She was not famed for her beauty or her charm, but for something far more rare and far more enduring. A mind that was as sharp and as clear as a shard of winter ice, and a curiosity that was as boundless and as deep as the night sky. Her childhood home was a place of quiet, cool formality, not of warmth and easy affection. Her mother was a woman of sharp edges and even sharper ambitions, a woman who saw her children not as souls to be nurtured, but as moves to be made in the great, complex game of status and power. Her father was a kind man, but a distant one, a soldier often away with his regiments. And so, Sophie, a thoughtful girl with a heart full of questions, found herself in a world of silent, unsatisfying answers. But she discovered a secret world, a hidden door into a universe of infinite adventure and endless, stimulating companionship. It was the library. It was not a grand, sweeping hall like one might imagine in a palace, but a small, cozy, wood-paneled room, smelling of old paper, of rich leather bindings, and of sweet beeswax used to polish the shelves. The light here was always soft, filtered through tall, narrow windows that looked out onto a quiet, green courtyard. In the shafts of sunlight, tiny dust motes danced and swirled like golden, magical fairies. For Sophie, this room was not quiet. It was buzzing, humming, alive with the silent voices of 1,000 brilliant minds. Here, in this magical room, she learned to travel the world without ever leaving her chair. She journeyed to ancient Rome with the great historians. She debated the nature of justice with the Greek philosophers, and she explored the complex, winding landscapes of the human heart with the great poets. The characters in her books, the brave, the wise, the foolish, the tragic, became her closest, most trusted friends. The ideas she encountered, so bold and new and challenging, became her most valued advisors. While other girls her age were learning the delicate stitches of embroidery and the formal steps of courtly dances, Sophie was learning the much more difficult and dangerous art of how to think. She was learning to see the world not just as it was presented to her, but as it could be, as it should be. She developed a quiet, unshakable confidence, a confidence rooted not in her reflection in a mirror or in her noble station, but in the undeniable power of her own mind. The library was her fortress, her sanctuary, and her secret training ground. It was here, in the quiet companionship of books, that she forged the resilience, the wisdom, and the inner steel that she would one day need to survive in a world far more dangerous and complex than any she had yet encountered. One day, an astonishing piece of news arrived. a letter delivered by a special courier, a heavy cream envelope sealed with the magnificent double-headed eagle of the Russian imperial crest. It was a summons, a formal invitation that was in fact a command. The empress of that vast, snowy, and almost mythical land had chosen Sophie, a minor German princess, to be the bride for her nephew and heir, the Grand Duke Peter. Imagine the tremor of that news in the quiet, orderly castle. Sophie, a girl of only 14, a princess from a nearly forgotten house, was to be plucked from her familiar, predictable world and set down in the very center of one of the most powerful, opulent, and glittering courts in the entire world. Her mother was ecstatic, her greatest ambitions finally, miraculously realized. But Sophie, standing by the library window, looking out at the familiar, gentle, and beloved landscape of her home, must have felt a profound and complex mix of heart-pounding trepidation and a deep, quiet, and undeniable thrill. Her life of reading about the world was over. Her life of living in it was about to begin. The stories she had only encountered on the printed page, stories of power, of destiny, of great and terrible choices, were about to become her own. As you settle into your own quiet space tonight, think of young Sophie in her library. Picture the soft, gentle light, the tall, silent shelves reaching for the ceiling, the solid, comforting feel of a heavy, leather-bound book in her hands. Feel the quiet, thrilling excitement of a young mind awakening to its own immense power. Her story reminds us that our greatest and most enduring strength is often cultivated in silence and solitude. It is in the quiet moments of reflection, of learning, of dreaming, that we build the inner resources we need to face the great, wide world. Let the peaceful, studious silence of Sophie's library fill your room tonight. Let it be a safe and quiet sanctuary for your own mind, a place where all is calm, all is well, and all is ready for rest. The summons had been received, the momentous decision made. And so, our quiet, bookish Sophie began a journey that would transform her life as completely and as irrevocably as a caterpillar, transforming into a butterfly. It was a journey from the familiar, green, gentle warmth of her small world into the vast, glittering, and soul-chilling cold of the great and formidable Russian Empire. Imagine her departure. A young girl, barely a woman, standing on the stone steps of the only home she has ever known. She is saying a formal goodbye to her distant father, a quiet farewell to the servants she has known her whole life, and perhaps, in her own silent, aching way, a profound farewell to the comforting, loyal friendship of her library. She steps into a heavy, ornate, horse-drawn carriage, the door closing with a solid, final thud that echoes the closing of a chapter of her life. The wheels begin to groan and then turn, and her old, familiar life begins to recede, growing smaller and smaller through the window until it is just a memory, a story she used to live in. The journey was long, an epic in itself, lasting for weeks. The carriage rumbled over the cobblestones of neat, orderly towns, and then out into the wider, wilder country. The landscape, the very air, changed with each passing day. The rolling green hills of her German homeland flattened into the vast, dark, and ancient forests of Poland, and then opened up into the immense, soul-stirring, and almost frightening emptiness of the great Russian plain. The sky seemed to grow wider, the world bigger and more empty, and as they traveled ever eastward, the world grew colder. The soft, gentle autumn air gave way to a sharp, biting wind that found its way through every crack in the carriage. The first snowflakes began to fall, tentatively at first, like small white feathers, then in a thick, swirling, silent curtain of white, until the entire world was transformed into a new and unfamiliar state of being. Everything, the fields, the forests, the rooftops of the tiny villages they passed, was covered in a deep, pristine, silent blanket of snow. The great forests became a place of profound, fairy tale magic. The heavy branches of the pines and birches laden with white, glittering like diamonds in the pale, low-hanging winter sun. For Sophie, who had known only gentle green seasons, this immense, frozen and silent landscape must have been both terrifying and breathtakingly beautiful. It was a world of stark, powerful simplicity, a world that seemed to demand a different kind of strength. Finally, they arrived in St. Petersburg, the imperial capital. It was a city born of a czar's iron will, a city of impossible, almost dreamlike grandeur rising from the frozen marshes. Palaces of pastel green, brilliant blue, and warm, buttery yellow lined the banks of the wide, frozen Neva River. Their gilded, onion-shaped domes and impossibly slender spires glittered against the cold, clear, pale blue sky, looking like something from a beautiful, elaborate confection. The scale of it all, the sheer, unapologetic, and almost overwhelming opulence, was unlike anything Sophie could have ever imagined in her small library. She was taken to the Winter Palace, a building so vast, so sprawling, so magnificent, it was a city in itself. She walked through endless, echoing halls, her small, uncertain footsteps silent on the intricately patterned and highly polished parquet floors. The high walls were covered in shimmering silk, and hung with enormous dramatic paintings in heavy, ornate golden frames. Crystal chandeliers, dripping with thousands of perfectly cut prisms, hung from the ceilings like magnificent, frozen waterfalls, catching the winter light and casting a brilliant, dancing, rainbow-hued light everywhere. And the people. The court was a swirling, rushing river of color and sound and scent. Ladies in magnificent gowns of heavy velvet and rustling silk, their necks and fingers glittering with the cold fire of diamonds and emeralds. Men in military uniforms of brilliant red and green, their chests covered with medals, their ceremonial swords clanking at their sides. Everyone was whispering, laughing, watching. The air was thick with the heavy, sweet scent of French perfume, of clean beeswax from the polished floors, and of the unspoken invisible currents of power, ambition, and deep, dangerous intrigue. For Sophie, the quiet girl from the small, safe library, this world must have been utterly overwhelming. She was a foreigner, a stranger, a small, plain wooden boat set adrift in a vast and dazzling and treacherous sea. She could not yet speak the language fluently. She did not know the intricate, unwritten rules of this glittering, dangerous game. She was utterly, completely, and profoundly alone. But remember the quiet, invisible fortress she had built within herself. The cool, clear, analytical strength she had forged in all those years of silent study. She did not shrink. She did not crumble. Instead, she did what she had always done when faced with a new and complex text. She watched, she listened, and she began to learn. She understood with a clarity that was far beyond her years that her survival here would depend not on the richness of her gowns or the beauty of her face, but on the sharpness and the resilience of her mind. As you lie here, imagine this epic journey. Feel the rhythmic, lulling rumble of the carriage wheels over the frozen ground. See the world transform into a silent, white, and magical wonderland. Picture the breathtaking glitter of the icebound city, the overwhelming, almost painful beauty of the palace, and feel the quiet, steely resolve of the young girl at the heart of it all. Her story is a reminder that we can all face new, intimidating, and overwhelming worlds, and that our greatest and most reliable asset is the quiet, observant, and patient strength that we carry within us. Let the image of the silent, vast, snow-covered landscape bring a sense of deep peace to your mind. It is a world at rest, a world of deep, quiet, and profound beauty. And, like Sophie, you can find your strength within that quiet and prepare for your own gentle journey into the peaceful land of dreams. Sophie's new life in Russia, on the surface, was a fairy tale come to life. She was now the Grand Duchess Catherine, a name that carried with it the weight of history and the promise of a glorious future. She lived in palaces of breathtaking beauty, wore gowns woven with silver thread that rustled like the wind in the trees, and ate from plates of pure, shining gold. She was at the very center of a world of immense power and unimaginable splendor. But beneath this glittering, polished surface, her life was as cold and as empty as the vast, frozen plains that surrounded the city. Her new home was not a home at all. It was a beautiful, magnificent, gilded cage. Her marriage to the Grand Duke Peter was not a source of comfort or companionship, but of deep and abiding sorrow. Peter was a strange and deeply troubled young man. He was emotionally immature, prone to cruel public jests and childish, embarrassing tantrums. His true passion was not for his intelligent and beautiful young wife, nor for the vast empire he was destined to rule, but for his enormous collection of toy soldiers, which he would drill and maneuver for hours on end in their private chambers, creating a world of make-believe to escape the pressures of the real one. He showed Catherine no affection, no kindness, no respect. He was a husband in name only, a cold, distant, and often unkind star in her new, lonely, and unfamiliar sky. The court, too, was a beautiful prison. She was watched constantly, relentlessly. Her ladies-in-waiting were not friends but spies. Her every word was noted and reported, her every friendship scrutinized with suspicion. The ruling Empress Elizabeth was a powerful but deeply fickle woman, and Catherine knew that her favor, her very position at court, could be withdrawn as quickly and as whimsically as it had been given. She had no true friends, no one she could trust with her innermost thoughts or her deepest fears. She was surrounded by 1,000 people, yet she was profoundly, achingly alone. The vast, echoing, and magnificently decorated halls of the palace often mirrored the great, empty spaces she felt in her own heart. Many a young woman, faced with such a cold and isolating reality, would have withered. She could have faded into a silent, beautiful, decorative object, a lovely but lifeless doll in the great imperial pageant. Or she could have broken completely under the relentless strain of the loneliness and the constant, subtle, unspoken threat. But Catherine did not. She was made of something stronger, something she had forged herself in the quiet of her library. Instead of looking for solace and strength in the cold, glittering world around her, she began to build an even richer, more beautiful, and more powerful world within. Just as she had in her childhood library, she turned to books. They were delivered to her in secret, and they became her constant companions, her wisest teachers. her only true salvation. In the quiet solitude of her magnificent but empty rooms, by the warm, flickering, golden light of a candelabra, she embarked on a second, deeper, and more purposeful education. She devoured the works of the great Enlightenment thinkers, Voltaire, Montesquieu, Diderot. These were writers who spoke of reason, of justice, of the inalienable rights of man, and of the sacred duty of a monarch to serve the people, not to rule over them. As she read these revolutionary words, a quiet, steady fire was lit within her. A vision began to form in her brilliant mind, a dream of what Russia, this vast, beautiful, and troubled nation, could one day be. It was a vision of a nation transformed, a place of learning and of art, a place of enlightened laws and of human dignity. She began to see her own difficult, painful circumstances not as a curse, but as a unique and powerful, if challenging, opportunity. She was in a position to learn, to observe, to understand the intricate inner workings of this vast and complex empire from the very inside. While her husband played with his toy soldiers, Catherine was studying the art of governance. While the other ladies of the court gossiped and played cards, she was memorizing Russian history, mastering the complex, beautiful, and difficult language, and studying the deep, mystical traditions of the Orthodox faith. She was not just passing the long, empty hours, she was preparing. For what, she did not yet know for certain. But a deep, intuitive, and unshakable sense told her that her destiny was not to be a forgotten, cast-aside wife, but something far, far greater. She cultivated a quiet, unshakable dignity that stood in stark and telling contrast to her husband's foolishness. She learned to navigate the treacherous, invisible currents of the court with a grace, a charm, and an intelligence that won her the quiet, deep admiration of those who were paying attention. She was building a kingdom, not of land or of armies that could be seen, but of knowledge, of character, of inner, unassailable strength. It was a kingdom that no one could see, and therefore it was a kingdom that no one, not even a czar, could take from her. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine Catherine in her silent, beautiful, candle-lit room. See the golden light of the flames dancing on the gilded pages of her book. Feel the quiet, focused, and powerful energy of a mind that is not just learning, but is awakening to its own immense, world-changing power. Her story is a powerful reminder that even when our external circumstances feel confining or difficult, we have the power to create a world of infinite richness and absolute freedom within ourselves. Our minds can be our greatest and most beautiful sanctuary. Let that thought bring you a deep and comforting sense of peace. You too possess an inner kingdom, a place of quiet strength and limitless possibility. And now, in the safety and the peace of that inner kingdom, you can allow yourself to drift gently and safely into sleep. The years passed in the Russian court like the slow, majestic, and almost imperceptible drift of ice floes on the Neva River in spring. On the surface, all was glittering, unchanging ceremony and rigid, time-honored tradition. But beneath this frozen, polished surface, powerful, invisible currents were shifting. Catherine remained in her gilded cage, playing the public part of the dutiful, quiet, and unassuming wife, all the while secretly and tirelessly building her inner kingdom of knowledge and her outer network of powerful, loyal allies. She had become a master of the difficult art of patience. She knew that power, true and lasting power, was not something to be seized in a single impulsive moment of passion, but something to be cultivated slowly, carefully, and organically, like a rare and precious garden that requires daily, devoted attention. With a charm that was both genuine and strategic, she won the deep, abiding, and almost fanatical loyalty of the officers of the Imperial Guard, the elite, handsome soldiers who were the true and only key to the throne. They saw in her the regal dignity, the sharp intelligence, and the deep, sincere love for Russia that was so painfully and so obviously lacking in her husband, the unpredictable and deeply unpopular heir. She charmed powerful, world-weary nobles and wise, influential old churchmen, not with empty flirtation, but with her formidable intellect, her astonishing memory, and her genuine, thoughtful interest in their concerns. Then, after 2 long decades of waiting, the long wait ended. The Empress Elizabeth, who had ruled for so long with an iron and often capricious hand, finally passed away. The throne was now Peter's, and as Catherine had long feared and secretly predicted, his reign began not with wisdom and solemnity, but with a series of foolish, reckless, and impulsive acts that sent shockwaves of anger, disbelief, and deep resentment through the entire empire. He immediately and foolishly made peace with Russia's great and hated enemy, Prussia, an act that was seen as a deep, personal betrayal by the army that had fought and bled and died for years in that very conflict. He publicly mocked the ancient, sacred traditions of the Orthodox Church, alienating the powerful and deeply conservative clergy. He treated the proud, ancient Russian nobility with open and childish contempt. And most dangerously of all, for himself, he spoke openly and frequently of divorcing Catherine, of casting her aside and perhaps even imprisoning her for life, so that he could finally marry his mistress. For Catherine, the moment of ultimate crisis had arrived. Her very life was now in immediate and undeniable danger. All the long years of silent preparation, of patient, lonely study, of quiet, careful cultivation of friendships, had led to this single, terrifying, and unavoidable crossroads. She could submit to her fate, to be erased from history by a foolish and cruel man, a quiet footnote in a tragic story. Or she could act, and in doing so, risk everything. The choice, in the end, was made for her by those who believed in her so completely. The leaders of the Guard, the powerful nobles she had so carefully befriended, all came to her in secret, in the dead of night. They would not stand for this new, unstable czar. They would stand and fight and die for her. The event itself was not a bloody, chaotic battle or a violent, messy revolution. It was as swift, as silent, and as elegantly decisive as a master's move in a grand chess game. One cool, clear morning in June of 1762, while Peter was away at one of his country palaces, playing with his soldiers, Catherine acted. She dressed in the handsome dark green uniform of an officer of the Guard. Mounting a magnificent white horse, she rode at the head of the loyal, cheering regiments through the cobblestoned streets of St. Petersburg. The people poured from their homes and their shops, not in fear, but in a great, spontaneous wave of celebration. They had watched her for years, this quiet, intelligent, and dignified foreign princess who had, in her heart, become more Russian than the Tsar himself. They cheered her, they wept, they threw flowers in her path. In the great, gilded Kazan Cathedral, the highest leaders of the church officially and joyfully proclaimed her the new ruler, Catherine II, Empress and autocrat of all the Russias. It was all over in a matter of hours. There was no resistance, no fight. The entire empire seemed to let out a great collective sigh of profound relief. Peter, hearing the news, was utterly lost and completely alone. Without the support of the army, he was powerless. He abdicated the throne without a single struggle. A few days later, in a remote, guarded palace, he was dead. The official story was a simple, unfortunate illness, but the truth remained a dark, silent, and convenient mystery. Imagine Catherine on that momentous day. The quiet sun that had been slowly, patiently rising in the shadows for so long had finally broken through the clouds to stand, brilliant and undeniable, at the zenith of the sky. She was no longer a pawn in someone else's dangerous game. She was the queen. She had not inherited her crown. She had not been given it. She had, through her own formidable intelligence, her quiet courage, and her almost inhuman, unyielding patience, taken it for herself. Her story is not a celebration of ruthless ambition, but a powerful testament to the quiet, unstoppable power of a prepared and resilient mind. It is a reminder that the greatest and most profound changes in our lives often happen not with a loud, violent explosion, but with a silent, deliberate, and decisive shift. As you lie here, feel the sense of calm, focused power that Catherine must have felt on that fateful morning. It was not the frantic, nervous energy of a gambler, but the deep, centered, and profound stillness of someone who had prepared for this single moment her entire life. Let that sense of quiet readiness, of a destiny finally and fully fulfilled, soothe you now. The long, dark night of waiting is over. The dawn has come. And now you can rest. Let us now leave the cold, glittering, and intensely human world of imperial ambition and travel to a place of deep, warm, and mysterious slumber. Our journey takes us away from the world of recorded history, with its well-defined dates and its loud, famous battles, and into the timeless, living, breathing memory of the earth itself. We are going to a jungle in the south of Mexico, a place where the air is as thick, as warm, and as comforting as a soft woolen blanket. And the entire world is a symphony of 1,000 different shades of green. Imagine you are standing at the edge of this vast rainforest. The trees of the canopy, mahogany, ceiba, and sapodilla, are so tall and their leaves so dense that they form a living, breathing, and ever-shifting roof high, high above you. The sunlight filters down in soft, shifting, almost liquid beams, like the holy light through a cathedral's stained glass window, illuminating a world of breathtaking, teeming life. Everything here is growing, climbing, reaching for that precious light. Great woody vines, known as lianas, as thick as a man's arm, hang from the high branches. The forest floor is a carpet of ferns with leaves as delicate and as intricate as lace, which unfurl from the damp, rich, dark earth. The air is alive with sound. It is not a loud or jarring sound, but a constant, gentle, and multi-layered chorus. There is the strange, guttural call of a howler monkey, echoing from some unseen perch in the high branches. There is the flute-like, melodic call of an oropendola bird, and the steady, rhythmic, and almost hypnotic hum of millions of insects, a sound that is the very heartbeat of the jungle itself. The air itself is fragrant, deeply so, smelling of damp soil after a rain, of the sweet, heavy, intoxicating perfume of wild orchids, and of something else, something ancient and mysterious, the cool, clean scent of old, weathered stone. As we walk deeper into this green, living world, Following a faint, winding path that seems to appear before us as we move, we begin to see them. Rising from the jungle floor, cloaked in a soft green velvet of moss and entwined with the powerful roots of strangler figs, are the ruins of an ancient city. This is Palenque, a great city of the Maya people, a place that was once a thriving, sophisticated center of art, astronomy, and sacred ceremony, but has now been sleeping under its thick, protective blanket of green for more than 1,000 years. We see the magnificent, ghostly outlines of great pyramids, their stone steps, now softened with moss, climbing towards the sky. We see the remains of grand palaces and spacious courtyards, their intricately carved walls now home to tree roots and colonies of silent, sleeping bats. It is a place of profound, beautiful, and almost sacred silence, a place where nature has gently and patiently reclaimed what was once hers, holding the city in a soft, green embrace. For many years, the archaeologists and explorers who came to study this lost city were drawn, like moths to a flame, to its greatest and most magnificent monument, the Temple of the Inscriptions. It is a towering, 9-stepped pyramid that holds the magnificent tomb of a mighty king, Pakal the Great. His epic story is written in intricate, beautiful hieroglyphs carved into the stone of his sarcophagus, a library of a life lived long, long ago. But our story tonight is not found in that grand, famous, and well-studied temple. It is found in its quieter, more modest neighbor, a smaller, less imposing pyramid known to archaeologists simply as Temple 13. For centuries, it stood silently in the deep shadow of its larger, more famous brother, and it was assumed by all to hold no great secrets. It was just another silent stone structure, dreaming its long, slow dream of a glorious, forgotten past. But sometimes, as we know, the quietest places hold the deepest and most beautiful secrets. And a whisper, a feeling, a deep and unexplainable intuition led a team of archaeologists in the humid summer of 1994 to look more closely, more carefully at this unassuming temple. They were not searching for gold or for treasure. They were listening for a story that had been waiting patiently for over a millennium to be heard. As you lie here, imagine yourself standing in this sacred, sleeping, and deeply peaceful city. Feel the warm, humid, and fragrant air on your skin. Hear the gentle, living, and ancient sounds of the jungle all around you. See the soft, dappled, and ever-changing light falling on the ancient, moss-covered stones. It is a place of deep, timeless peace. A place where the frantic, hurried pace of our modern world has no meaning and no power. Let the calming, ancient spirit of this sleeping place begin to soothe you. We are about to enter a place of even deeper, more profound rest. A chamber of secrets that has been sealed away from the world for centuries. Let the gentle whisper of the jungle be your lullaby. The archaeologists who felt the quiet, insistent pull of the humble temple began their work with a sense of profound reverence and meticulous care. They moved slowly, gently, their voices hushed, as if they were guests in a great, sleeping cathedral, and did not wish to wake the ancient spirits of the place. And their deep, respectful patience was rewarded in the most extraordinary way. Deep within the solid heart of the pyramid, hidden beneath the stone floors and behind a secret, plastered-over wall, they found what their intuition had been telling them was there, a sealed passageway. A hidden secret door that had not been opened since the very day it was created, over 1,300 years ago. Imagine that singular moment. The air in the narrow tunnel is still, hot, and thick with the scent of earth and time. The only sound is the gentle, rhythmic scrape of their tools against the ancient stone, and the hushed, excited, almost breathless whispers of the team. They are about to become the first people in over a millennium to enter this sacred, forgotten, and hidden space. With the utmost, almost surgical care, they break the ancient mortar seal. A puff of cool, musty air, the captured, sleeping breath of a long-dead century, escapes the tomb with a faint, ghostly sigh. They shine their powerful flashlights into the absolute, perfect darkness. A steep, narrow staircase of stone leads down, down, down into the silent, waiting heart of the earth. One by one they descend, their movements slow and deliberate. The air grows cooler, the silence deeper, more profound. At the bottom of the stairs they find themselves in a small, simple, and unadorned stone chamber. And there, in the very center of the room, resting in perfect, majestic, and undisturbed stillness, is a large limestone sarcophagus. It is untouched, pristine, exactly as it was left on the day of the burial so long ago. The sense of awe, of having stepped out of time itself, is so thick in the small chamber that you could feel it on your skin. With gentle, steady, and reverent hands, they begin to lift the heavy, single-slab stone lid. It moves with a slow, grinding, and deeply resonant sound, the sound of time itself being disturbed from a long, deep sleep. And as the opening widens, something utterly extraordinary, something from a dream or a myth, happens. A great, soft cloud of brilliant, vibrant, scarlet-red dust billows up from within the sarcophagus. It catches the bright beams of their flashlights, swirling and eddying in the still air like a magical crimson mist, a departing spirit made visible. It is a breathtaking, beautiful, and almost unbelievable sight. The entire interior of the sarcophagus and everything that lay within it is coated in a thick, fine, and even layer of this mysterious red powder. It is cinnabar, a mineral pigment that the ancient Maya held as deeply, profoundly sacred. For them, its vibrant, blood-red color was not a symbol of danger or of violence, but a powerful symbol of life itself. It represented the life-giving blood, the regenerative, magical power of the earth, and the dawning sun that promised a glorious rebirth after the long, dark night of death. And there, lying in this sacred bed of crimson dust, was the delicate, perfectly preserved skeleton of a woman. She was not simply buried. She had been prepared with great love, with great reverence, and with great ceremony for a divine and eternal journey. Her fragile skull was adorned with a mask of exquisite, almost painful beauty, made from dozens of small, perfectly fitted, polished tiles of shimmering, life-giving green jade. Around her neck, on her wrists, and at her ankles were heavy, cool necklaces and bracelets of more jade and of iridescent, mother-of-pearl shells. She was dressed for eternity, adorned with the most powerful symbols of life, of water, and of everlasting divine power. But there was a profound, haunting, and beautiful mystery. Nowhere in the entire chamber, not on the cool stone walls, not on the grand sarcophagus itself, were there any carved hieroglyphs. There was no inscription, not a single carved word to tell them her name. She was clearly a person of immense, almost unimaginable importance, a great queen or powerful high priestess, buried with the highest and most sacred honors. Yet her identity was a a story entrusted only to the deep, abiding silence of her magnificent tomb. In the absence of a written name, the archaeologists gave her one that perfectly suited the deep mystery and the vibrant magic of her discovery. They called her, and she is known to the world still, as the Red Queen. As you lie here tonight, picture this silent, sacred, and deeply peaceful scene. See the cool, dark, ancient stone of the chamber. Imagine the breathtaking, magical moment when the sarcophagus is opened, and the great, soft cloud of sacred, crimson dust rises like a departing, peaceful spirit. See the shimmering, life-affirming green of the jade resting against the deep, rich, vibrant red of the cinnabar. This is not a place of death, but a sacred place of transformation. It is a womb, a seedbed, where a great and beloved soul was laid to rest with the certain and joyful promise of being reborn into the spirit world. Let the deep, sacred, and absolute silence of this hidden chamber fill your room tonight. Let the image of the vibrant, life-giving red bring a sense of warmth, of safety, and of profound peace to your heart. A great queen is sleeping here, and her profound, eternal, and undisturbed rest is a gentle, loving invitation for you to find your own. For 13 centuries, the Red Queen slept, undisturbed in her silent, sacred, crimson world. Her sleep was deeper than any we can possibly know, a slumber measured not in the passing of hours, but in the slow, patient, and inexorable turning of empires, in the gradual, almost imperceptible shifting of the stars in the night sky. While the world above grew and changed, while her great city was gently and completely reclaimed by the jungle, and her people's collective memory faded into myth and legend, she rested in a perfect, sacred, and absolute stillness. Let us try to imagine, just for a moment, the world from which she came, and the deep, beautiful beliefs that guided her people as they so lovingly laid her to rest. For the ancient Maya, death was not a final end, not a door closing forever. It was a transition, a sacred and often perilous journey. They believed that the soul had to travel through the mysterious and often dangerous underworld, a mystical realm of gods and trials called Xibalba, before it could be gloriously reborn into the cosmos. A royal burial, therefore, was not a sad farewell, but a careful, loving, and deeply practical preparation for this epic, otherworldly voyage. Every single object placed in her tomb was a tool, a map, a source of spiritual power for the long and difficult journey ahead. The jade, a stone as green as the first tender shoots of new corn and as cool and as enduring as the mountains, was not mere jewelry. It was a powerful vessel of life force, believed to contain the very essence of breath, of water, of vitality itself. The intricate mask placed over her face was meant to give her an eternal, unchanging, divine countenance, so that the powerful and often fearsome gods of the underworld would immediately recognize her as one of their own, as royalty, and allow her safe passage. And the cinnabar, the sacred red dust, was the most powerful and important magic of all. By blanketing her entire body in the pure, vibrant color of life and rebirth, her people were performing a profound and deeply hopeful ritual. They were ensuring that her spirit would not fade into a gray, formless oblivion, but would remain vibrant, powerful, and ready to be reborn, just as the sun is miraculously reborn each and every morning from the dark, eastern horizon of the underworld. Who was she, this woman of such immense and obvious importance? While her name is not written in her tomb, a silent testament to a different kind of memory, the clues all point to one person. Most scholars now believe she was Lady Tsakbu Ajal, the wife and beloved queen of the great king Pakal, the very man who rests in the grand, story-filled pyramid right next to hers. Imagine them in life. A powerful king and a revered queen ruling side by side. His strength, perhaps, was in the world of the living, in his public works, his battles, his grand monuments carved with the intricate public stories of his reign. Perhaps her strength, her domain, was in the equally important realm of the spirit, in sacred ceremony, in complex ritual, in the quiet, mystical duties that held the entire kingdom in a state of cosmic and harmonious balance. The deliberate placement of their tombs, so close to one another that they almost touch, feels like the final, beautiful sentence in a great and timeless love story. A king and queen, inseparable partners in life, now resting side by side for all eternity, continuing their sacred and essential partnership in the spirit world. His tomb, with its grand inscriptions and its public, heroic art, tells his story to the world of the living. Her tomb, silent, secret, intimate, and personal, tells her story only to the gods. Her long sleep was not an empty, dreamless void. In the Maya imagination, it was a time of active and profound transformation. Her spirit was traveling through mystical, otherworldly landscapes, crossing dark, churning rivers, and passing through the 12 challenging houses of the great gods of Xibalba, the House of Gloom, the House of Knives, the House of Cold. And with the powerful help of the sacred objects buried with her, she would pass all the trials and emerge, triumphant and transformed, into the heavens, to become a brilliant, steady star, an eternal, shining companion to her husband in the vast, silent night sky. As you lie here tonight, ready for your own sleep, think of the profound, sacred peace of the Red Queen's slumber. It is a sleep protected by a great pyramid, cradled by the warm earth, and blessed by the sacred, loving rituals of a people who saw death not as a fearful ending, but as a beautiful and necessary part of an eternal cosmic cycle. Her rest is so deep, so complete, that it has absorbed the profound silence of centuries. Let a small piece of that profound, ancient, and deeply healing peace settle upon you now. Know that your own sleep is also a sacred and necessary journey. It is a time for your body to heal and restore itself, for your mind to rest and be still, and for your spirit to wander freely in the gentle, welcoming landscapes of your dreams. Like the Red Queen, you are safe, you are protected, and you are entering a time of quiet, gentle, healing transformation. Let go and allow yourself to drift into that deep, restorative, and ancient slumber. Our final journey of the night takes us away from the deep, mysterious slumber of the ancient past and into a time we can more easily touch, a world of vibrant, defiant color, of passionate, tumultuous life, and of a spirit so fiercely, stubbornly resilient it could take the deepest, most relentless pain and transform it into breathtaking, unforgettable beauty. We travel to a city that is a universe unto itself, the sprawling, chaotic, and beautiful metropolis of Mexico City, and to a particular house that became the vibrant, living heart of that universe for a woman named Frida. Imagine a house whose walls are painted the most brilliant, shocking, and joyful cobalt blue, a blue as deep and as vibrant as a tropical sky at dusk. This is the Casa Azul, the Blue House. It sits on a quiet, sun-drenched street in the neighborhood of Coyoacan. its bright blue walls a joyful, almost defiant declaration of life. The windows are trimmed in a bright, cheerful green, the color of new leaves, and the private courtyard garden within is a wild, exuberant, and semi-tamed jungle of tropical flowers, towering sculptural cacti, and shady, fruit-bearing trees. This house was more than just a home. It was a sanctuary, a living, breathing canvas, and the very soul of our story. It was here that Frida Kahlo was born, and it was here, within these bright, protective blue walls, that she would fight her greatest battles, feel her deepest loves, and create her most enduring, powerful magic. Frida was a child of fire and light. From her earliest days, she was fiercely intelligent, passionately curious, and utterly unwilling to be contained by the quiet, narrow expectations placed on girls of her time. But her fiery spirit was tested early and often. A bout with polio as a young girl left her with a permanent limp, the first of many physical trials that would shape her life and her art. It was a shadow that followed her, but Frida was a woman who learned to paint with her shadows, to give them color and form and meaning. Her dream was not to be an artist. Her dream was to be a doctor, a healer. She was a brilliant student, one of only a handful of girls at the nation's most prestigious preparatory school. Her mind as sharp and as bright as her dark, intense gaze. She was on a path of science and reason, her future stretching out before her, clear, bright, and full of promise. And then, on a rainy afternoon in September of 1925, that future was shattered into a million pieces. The rickety wooden bus she was riding home from school was struck by a streetcar. In a brutal, violent, and world-ending instant, her life was torn apart. The accident was catastrophic, leaving her body broken in ways that are difficult to even imagine. Her spine, her ribs, her legs, her pelvis, all fractured. A cold iron handrail impaled her, a wound so severe it was a profound miracle that she survived at all. She spent the next long, agonizing months confined to her bed in her beloved casa, Azul, her broken body encased in rigid plaster casts and restrictive, cage-like steel corsets. Her entire world shrank to the four walls of her childhood room, her view limited to the fabric canopy of her four-poster bed. It was a time of immense, unimaginable physical suffering, a time that could have easily and understandably broken her fiery spirit completely. But within that enforced stillness, within that prison of plaster and pain, something miraculous and unforeseen began to happen. Her parents, desperate to give her a way to pass the long, empty, pain-filled hours, gave her a set of paints and rigged a special custom-made easel for her. They placed a large mirror on the canopy above her, and so, with nothing else to look at, Frida began to paint the only subject she could see, the only subject she truly had left, herself. This was not an act of ego or of vanity. It was an act of sheer, desperate survival. It was an exploration, a way to have a conversation with her own pain, her own broken body, her own fractured identity. Lying there, a broken dove, as she once so poetically described herself, she discovered that she could take her abstract, formless suffering and give it a form, a color, a voice, a face. She began to translate her rich, chaotic, and painful inner world onto the hard, flat surface of the canvas. If she could no longer walk in the world, she would learn to fly on the powerful, colorful wings of her own imagination. The Casa Azul became her cocoon, the place of her transformation. It was here, in the quiet solitude of her room, surrounded by the constant, reassuring colors and the vibrant life of her garden just outside the window, that Frida the artist was born. The accident had cruelly taken her dream of being a doctor, a healer of others, but it had given her a new, more profound and more personal calling. She would become a different kind of healer, one who would use her own beautiful, terrible wounds to create art that would speak directly to the wounded, hidden parts in all of us. As you lie here, picture the brilliant, life-affirming blue of the Casa Azul. Imagine it not as a house of pain, but as a place of incredible alchemical transformation. It was a crucible where suffering was turned into strength, and silence was turned into a vibrant, colorful, and unforgettable song. Frida's story reminds us that sometimes our greatest and most painful wounds can become the sacred source of our greatest and most beautiful gift. It is often in our broken places that the light and the art can finally get in. Let the deep, calming peace of this cobalt sanctuary surround you now. Know that you, too, have the profound power to transform, to heal, and to create your own unique beauty from all of your life's experiences. From her bed in the Casa Azul, which became both her prison and her throne, Frida began to paint a world unlike any the art world had ever seen. It was a world that was both intensely, almost painfully, personal and yet universally resonant, a vivid, surreal, and deeply symbolic landscape of her own soul, painted with a fierce, beautiful, and sometimes brutal honesty. Her canvases were not large, but they contained entire, complex universes. She continued to paint self-portraits, dozens of them, not as a way to simply document her appearance, but as a courageous and relentless way to map her ever-shifting inner life. Her gaze in these paintings is always the powerful central anchor. It is direct, unflinching, and seems to look right through you. She looks out at us, the viewers, not asking for our pity, but demanding to be seen, to be truly understood in all her magnificent, painful complexity. And she surrounded herself in these portraits with the rich, symbolic language of her world, her own personal mythology. She painted herself with her beloved, eccentric pets, mischievous, intelligent spider monkeys who draped their long, delicate arms around her neck like a living, breathing necklace, a noble, sleek black cat with knowing, emerald eyes, a beautiful, proud parrot. These creatures were her constant companions in her frequent solitude, her silent, watchful, and non-judgmental friends, and in her art, they become powerful, symbolic extensions of her very being. She painted herself in her garden, the place that was her truest paradise on earth. The lush, vibrant, and oversized leaves of tropical plants frame her face like a natural crown. The brilliant, exotic blossoms of the flowers she tended so lovingly and so carefully bloom all around her. Her garden in the Casa Azul was her living, breathing connection to the earth, a piece of the wild, magical, and resilient Mexico that she adored. And in her art, she often becomes a kind of earth goddess, inseparable from the cycles of life, death, and rebirth in the natural world. She painted her pain, yes, but she always did it with a poet's profound symbolism. In one of her most famous and powerful paintings, she depicts her own spine as a shattered, crumbling, classical column. Her beautiful, tormented body is pierced with dozens of sharp nails. Yet, she stands tall, and while silent tears stream down her stoic face, her gaze remains direct and unbroken. She does not hide her suffering, but she transforms it into a powerful, almost religious icon of incredible human endurance. She also painted her love, which was as central to her life as her pain. Her relationship with the great muralist Diego Rivera was the great consuming passion and the great destructive storm of her life. She painted their turbulent, inseparable connection, sometimes showing them bound together by invisible threads, sometimes torn painfully apart. In one incredible painting, she portrays herself as two different Fridas, connected by a single artery. One has a whole, loving heart, the other a broken, bleeding one. It is a testament to a love that was both deeply nourishing and terribly wounding, often at the very same time. And through it all, she celebrated her identity with a fierce and joyful pride. She dressed herself in the beautiful, traditional, and elaborate clothing of the women of the Tehuantepec region of Mexico, with their intricate, floral embroidery and their long, flowing, colorful skirts. She wove bright ribbons and fragrant, fresh flowers into her dark, braided hair, creating a magnificent crown for herself. This was not a costume. It was a proud, political, and deeply personal statement. It was her way of embracing her rich Mexican heritage, of connecting herself to the long, unbroken line of strong, resilient women who had come before her. To look at a Frida Kahlo painting is to read a page from her most secret diary. It is to be invited into the most intimate, vulnerable corners of her heart and her mind. She painted with a raw, unfiltered courage that is still, to this day, breathtaking. She laid her soul bare for the world to see, with all its brilliant light and all its darkest shadows, and in doing so, she gave millions of people who felt different, who felt broken, or who felt unseen, the powerful permission to be their own true, authentic, and beautifully imperfect selves. As you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine this magical, vibrant garden of the soul that Frida cultivated with such love and such courage. See the brilliant, impossible colors, the lush, protective foliage, the wise, watchful eyes of her animal companions. Feel the quiet, focused, and powerful intensity of the artist at her work, transforming her life, her love, and her pain into something beautiful, powerful, and eternal. Her story teaches us that our inner world is a garden, and we are its keeper. We have the sacred power to tend it, to nurture it, and to make it bloom with our own unique flowers, even in the harshest and most difficult of conditions. Let the vibrant, life-affirming energy of her art fill your dreams tonight. Let it be a gentle, colorful reminder of your own inner strength, your own deep creativity, and your own unique, unbreakable, and wonderful beauty. And so, our night of quiet wandering comes to a gentle and peaceful close. We have walked the dusty, sunlit lanes of a medieval village, stood in the glittering, frozen snow of an imperial court, descended into the sacred, crimson slumber of a jungle queen, and lingered for a while in the vibrant, cobalt blue sanctuary of a fearless, creative artist. These stories, pulled like cool, clear water from the deep, quiet river of time, are now yours to keep. They have been a gentle, meandering path for your mind to follow, a quiet, moonlit distraction from the worries and the clamor of the day. And now, that path leads us back to the simple, profound, and beautiful peace of this present moment. Bring your awareness back, gently now, to the room around you. Feel the simple, solid reality of the soft pillow beneath your head, the gentle, reassuring weight of the blanket that covers you. Listen to the quiet, familiar sounds of your own home, the soft, almost inaudible hum of the house settling for the night, the distant, muffled murmur of the world outside finally going to sleep. These are the sounds of safety, of comfort, of peace, of stillness. Now, bring your awareness to your own body, a faithful and wonderful vessel that has carried you through another day. Feel the gentle, rhythmic, and effortless rise and fall of your own breath. It is the oldest and most faithful rhythm you know, a quiet, steady, and reliable anchor in the sometimes stormy sea of your thoughts. With each breath you inhale, imagine you are drawing in a deep sense of calm, of quiet, of profound peace. And with each breath you exhale, imagine you are releasing with a gentle sigh anything that remains of the day, any lingering worries, any restless, circling thoughts. Let them go. They are just clouds drifting across the vast, peaceful, and accepting sky of your mind. They will pass. The stories we have shared tonight are gentle reminders. They remind us that through all the ages, in all corners of a world that is so often loud and chaotic, there have always been, and will always be, pockets of deep, healing, and restorative quiet. The scribe's focused, creative silence, the empress's patient, determined study, the queen's eternal, profound rest, the artist's vibrant inner sanctuary. These are all different forms of the very same sacred peace. And that peace is available to you now. It is your birthright. It is the natural, intended state of the world at this deep, dark, and quiet hour of the night. There is nothing more you need to do. There is nothing you need to figure out. There is nowhere you need to be but right here. There is only this quiet, this softness, this gentle, easy, life-giving breath. The book of quiet dreams is closing its final, soft-edged page for the night. The stories have been told. They will be here for you again in the quiet library of your memory whenever you need them. But for now, let them dissolve. Let the images of the past fade gently into the soft, warm, and welcoming darkness that surrounds you. A deep and peaceful sleep is waiting for you. It is a gift that you so richly deserve. It is a healing, restorative balm for your body and for your soul. And now, it is time to receive it. It is time, my dear friend, to let go completely, to drift, to dream, and to fall into a long, deep, and wonderfully restful sleep. Good night.